Whoa, and here we are again, live.
Episode 3.
We're on episode 3 already, dude. Can you believe it?
Yes, I
Wow.
can. We have
We
nothing to do.
we have
Um,
yeah, basically.
this is
Oh, we have nothing
episode
to do but talk
3.
about stuff we've already seen to each other on the internet.
Episode 3 of D&E, siblings who talk to each other because they are siblings.
Yes.
Hello and welcome. Today's episode, I will be discussing She-Ra,
Yes,
and
and I
Des will
will
be discussing.
So I will be discussing the truly batshit insane and still my favorite anime, Gurren Lagann, or Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, if you want to go with the original name.
Wow.
So I actually looked it up on Wikipedia. So Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann means pierce the heavens Gurren Lagann, which that's a thematic recurrence throughout this show. So yeah, all right, cool. You know what? I think I'll start us off this time. I'll shake things up a little bit.
Fucking do it, bitch.
I will. Yes. So Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann I like it because for a number of reasons. First, it's short. It's like 25 episodes long. Beginning,
that's nice.
Middle, and that includes like a time skip and like people going into space. So like you've got a lot of really fun
That's
stuff.
great.
It's great. So it is a show that builds slowly, but builds quite a bit. So it starts off, it is an unspecified date in the distant future of Earth. And for some reason, everyone lives underground in these isolated little cities, right? And they've been underground for so long that saying that there even is a surface is this like really like, they don't want you going up in the surface. It follows the main character is this young boy named Simon, who is a digger. The diggers have a very important job because what they do is they take their drills and they drill down into the earth to expand their settlements. And he doesn't really have a family. You don't see it happen, but they say that like he lost his family in an earthquake because you know they're underground. Earthquakes are a big problem, right? And so his only family is this older boy named Kamina, and Kamina is like amazing. He's wonderful. His whole thing is like. So he has this big like go for broke, follow your dreams no matter what type attitude. Like he has like the stereotypical like anime look. Like he never wears a shirt. He's got this like cool blue dragon sleeve. He's got the spiky blue hair, and he's got these cool like red sunglasses, which they look like the sunglasses that Gurren Lagann has on its chest that it uses like a boomerang sometimes. And so he has this thing that he keeps telling Simon throughout the series, which is yours is the drill that will pierce the heavens, because he's like, we're going to go to the surface. And so then like him saying that ends up getting him like locked in the stocks by the head of the settlement. And so like that's happening. Well, while this is happening, Simon is digging one day and he finds this little necklace thing, which looks kind of like a drill. And it's this green glowing thing called a core drill. And then shortly afterwards, he finds this robotic face. And the robotic face is this tiny little like head with arms and legs and a little cockpit called a gunman, which is this thing that like they didn't think that they would be found that far below the surface. And so Kamen is like, oh, this is great. We're going to take this thing up. Well, guess what ends up falling through the ceiling? A big giant gunman in the shape of like a cow skull, right?
Whoa!
And that's when something gets set off in Simon, and he realizes all the earthquakes, those are big gunmen on the surface walking around. So it's like one of those things. So they're trying to fight the thing. And Kamina, he takes the overseer's big katana, and he goes, hey, man, I'm in charge of this place, so you better back off. Well, of course, he's just a kid with a sword, so what chance does he have of stopping this thing, right? Well, that's when Yoko Littner shows up. Now, Yoko Littner is the badass, sexy sniper girl, right?
Oh, of course, there has to be a sexy sniper girl.
Okay, I need to put the emphasis. Okay, but here's the thing: her costume, if you can even call it an outfit, is like barely there, bikini, barely concealing her massive tits, and like a mini skirt, and like big ass boots, right? Now I need to emphasize that she's a girl, right? She is an underage person, right? She is badass and she is great and I love her, but she is not 18. After the time jump in the middle of the show, I'm pretty sure she's like 21 or so. But before so, no. Okay, so we need to establish that right up front. Though this is a common theme that runs throughout all of the studio. They're called Trigger. They do a lot of really fast-paced, crazy anime, and a lot of it is very like, oh boy. But it usually the point is like, look at how absurd and stupid this is. Not like, hey, look at how hot and sexy this is, right?
Yeah.
So she has this big, cool-ass gun that they use to fight the gunman, and then they hop in Gurren and they shoot up into the surface, and then they see there is in fact a surface, and then then they're like, you know what? Let's go. Let's fight the gunman. Let's take back the surface, and that's kind of where the show starts, and then it just kind of goes like very steadily along. So they end up finding out that there's this race of creatures called the Beast Men, who were engineered. They're genetically engineered race by this guy who's called the Spiral King, and his name is Lorgenome. And this guy is just a big chunk of beef. Like, he is this like massive guy. Like, I think there's a point where like they end up fighting him, and he's about the same size as the face robot. Like, he ends up going toe to toe with the face robot. And, like, he's got this big. He sounds like he looks kind of like if Uncle Iroh was big and evil. And he has like the coolest voice in the dog.
So like the Fire Lord.
Basically, yeah. Again,
brothers?
Mark Hamill. He sounds like Bargain Bin Mark Hamill, but like in a good way. He's really good.
Bargain Bin Mark Hamill.
But discount buyers Mark Hamill. He played Loke Cloudhopper in the movie Space Battles. Opposite Johns Earl James, who played Darth Vader.
What's the one that's like John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt?
Yes,
that's
John,
the one.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. That is actually, you might not know this, but his name is my name too. And I would know that because,
God!
Dude, well, it's so annoying because whenever we go out, the people always shout, "There goes John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt," and I'm like,
and you're both like,
I'm like, ha 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 ha, John.
That's funny.
Yes,
that's nice.
It was very funny. No, so
very nice.
And so he has these 4 generals, the 4 beast generals, and there is the turtle guy, there is the water serpent lady. There is, I gotta look.
Always a water something person.
So here's the thing. So the thing is that whole like there are 4 main bad guys. That's actually a trope in a lot of Japanese and also I know it's mostly Japanese media because it's actually a thing that comes from Buddhism. I think in Shinto Buddhism there are 4 heavenly kings, and like this pops up everywhere. Like in G Gundam, the Dark Gundam is served by 4 evil Gundams. In Legend of Zelda in the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, there's 4 divine beasts, and in this one there's 4 generals. And like and every time they fight the generals, they get like a new addition to their crew, right? Well, when the show starts to get really cool is when you finally is when it goes from that one little head who Kamina names Lagann. One thing I love about the show is that Kamina comes up with all the anime names. Like usually in a show you run into someone and they're like, I am this anime thing. And they're like, oh, okay. But here there's like regular plain old names for things. And Kamina goes, we are Team Gurren. And this is your Lagann, Simon. And Simon's like, okay, big bro. And like Simon starts off like he's a kid. So he starts off as kind of like this cowardly, meek, really unsure of himself. And Kamina's role is to build him up and be like, no, Simon, you're awesome. Like there's a thing that he says where like, they're in a big battle, and this is again a reoccurring theme throughout the show. Where Simon's like, I don't know if I could do it, bro. I don't know if I could believe in myself. And Kamina's like, well, then don't believe in you, Simon. Believe in me. Believe in the me that believes in you. Oh my God, it's so good. And then like at one point, Kamina's like, then don't believe in me. Believe in you. Believe in the you that believes in you. And you're like, oh yes, so good. Well, Kamina's thing is to charge in head first without taking any shit from anybody. And
that sounds nice.
Well, and Yoko tells him all the time, dude, you're going to get killed eventually. You need to stop this shit, right? And one of the first things he does is he finds like this one really cool red and yellow gunman,
Mhm.
which with spoilers ends up becoming the main body for Gurren Lagann. So what he
Mhm.
does is he just walks up to it and like he knocks it over, just like charges into it. And then like he ends up beating the door open, and then he throws the beastman out, and then he's like, "This is mine." And then they run into this other beastman. I don't think he's a general, but he's trying to become really powerful. His name is Viral, and
Mhm.
he's like he's the Zuko. Like he's the angry, disrespected kid who's trying to earn the respect of this larger, more powerful guy in Lord Genome who just doesn't give a shit about him.
Mhm.
Um, and like eventually ends up deciding, you know what, screw this guy. I'm gonna join these people. Um, well, they're having a big fight, and what ends up happening is like he has this one really big, really cool gunman with this like helmet on the top, which
Mhm.
spoilers looks a lot like the helmet that Gurren Lagann ends up wearing, right?
Mhm.
And so what happens is Kamina and Simone are fighting him, and they're kind of tag teaming him, and Simone in this smaller Lagan, and uh, and Kamina and his bigger gunman. And then at some point, Kamina goes, "Simone, we're gonna combine!" And then all the other people that have been following them at this point are like, "They're gonna combine!" Everyone's like, it's like that scene in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs when like the cloud is coming over and everybody's like, it's like that. Yeah, everyone's doing that. And then what ends up happening is Kamina, so Simon activates the big drill at the bottom of his thing, and then he jumps, and then Kamina catches him, and then he just sticks him into the top of his logon, and nothing happens. And you're like, that is amazing. And then he turns him a little bit, and then all of a sudden it works. And they
But
combine, and the robot gets even bigger, and then he becomes Gurren Lagann, and you're like,
tell me
yo,
that
what the
it's
heck?
like tell me that it gives you distinct like Power Ranger vibes. We're gonna
Okay,
combine. Choo, 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 choo.
no, okay. Here's the thing about this show, right? The thing about it is power creep, right? It
Uh,
starts off with like a kid digging a hole, and then he gets a robot, and then the robot combines with another robot, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like you can't even imagine how big the show gets at the end. I'll say right now, I will spoil a little bit of the first part, but I won't say anything about the second part because that's where all the batshit insanity happens, right?
mhm.
So they figure out like, oh, okay, we can combine. Well, then the next episode, Kamina refuses to combine with Simon and just like starts throwing rocks at him in his big robot. And he's like, no, man, we need to combine in a manly way. We need to be big and bold. And he's like, come on, big bro, what are you doing? And so like, and eventually they figure out a way to combine that's cool enough for Kamina to allow them to combine, and they start fighting people. Well, then
Mhm.
eventually what happens is because they run into other people along the way, and eventually
Mhm.
they realize, wait a second, we can hijack gunmen too. So like Keaton, they run into him in the second episode. He lives with his sisters, and they wind up getting this really cool like lightning bolt looking one.
Mhm.
And they meet a couple other people, and what's cool is they wind up meeting a bunch of other of these underground communities. So
Mhm.
like Yoko is from the Littner uh, mine or whatever it's called, and so a bunch of her people come with her, and like they're traveling around and stuff, including he is. I wouldn't call him necessarily gender fluid because he goes by male pronouns, but
Mhm.
there's the mechanic Leroy, who is he has a very sort of like gender fluid type look where like he uh he never really says anything because like again they're too focused on the craziness and the insanity of the story, but like he does clearly hit on Kamina a little bit, and he does like he's always wearing makeup, but he's the engineer, and so he's the guy who studies all of the robots and figures out how they all work and stuff. And there's this thing that he realizes is actually a thing. So Kamina has been telling Simon the whole time, is like, oh, you got to show them your manly fighting spirit. Well, it turns out in this world, manly fighting spirit is actually what causes the robots to combine, right? So what happens is, and so that's how they wind up winning a lot of the battles. Is there'll be a big robot, and they'll have to find a way to combine with it, right? And there's one, I think the most important settlement they end up coming to is this settlement where there actually is an ancient gunman trapped in the settlement. And every couple years or so, they vote to send 2 people out of the settlement to die in the wasteland so that everybody inside can survive. And that's where they meet who eventually becomes the second in command of Team Gurren, this little boy named Rossyu, he's more of like a pragmatic type guy. And that's another theme that you run into in the show is there's always a bit of a conflict between like real world pragmatism and anime bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is usually you'd expect pragmatic like reservedness to win, but the characters who decide to go all anime bullshit end up being the guys who have the right idea. So it's like a kind of a nice alternative to like, okay, we got to sit back, we got to relax, we have to plan and stuff. You do still have to plan, but the best plan tends to just be going for broke, going all crazy and stuff. And there ends up being a bit of like a problem because like the 2 that they wind up drawing the lots to leave are the 2 kids who live there, and they don't. And so like Kamina, Simone, and Yoko aren't very happy about that, but they also recognize that like this is their custom, and so they have to honor it. Well, what ends up happening is a gunman shows up, and they're like, "Oh crap, what are we gonna do?" And like they were really against piloting the gunman. Well, so what happens? I think it's Rossyu. He ends up jumping in the gunman, and he ends up fighting it, and then they end up deciding, you know what? We can't tell them not to send the kids out. So Rossyu ends up leaving, and he ends up joining Team Gurren. And later on, when all is said and done, he winds up becoming a pretty powerful person in the society that they end up building. And there's a lot of fun to be had in just the first bit, right? There's one episode where they find this giant gunman that has become a spa, and so like they wind up like going to the spa.
Like a spa?
Yeah, like a spa with lots of big titty waifus and stuff. So Kitan and Kamina are just like having a blast. They're like, "Oh, this is amazing!"
Who wouldn't be having
and
a
even
blast?
Yoko and Kitan's sisters are like, "Wow, we can actually like sit in this warm bath and just like relax for once. We're not in the friggin' sand all day." Well, guess what? Turns out they're actually all beastmen. So they have to have like this big epic battle where like they're all in Gurren, and they're all in Kitan's gunman, and they're all just like in like towels and stuff, and they're like fighting, and it's awkward and humiliating.
That's wonderful.
And then they end up like fighting, and then at the end of the episode, like everything explodes. They're just lying on the ground butt naked. And then you should show up at Viral, and it's like, "I'm going to fight you, but first, would you all please put some clothes on?" Well, and then the most important part in the anime, arguably, because people talk about it for the rest of the show, is, and it ends up really informing Simone's character specifically, is so they find there's this huge gunman, which is just a giant battleship, right? It's a giant battleship with arms and legs. And one thing I love about it is that like the battleship's prow is like coming out of its crotch. So it's this like it's a big dick joke. It's awesome. Well, so they're having this big battle with Kami, who is he's the turtle beastman, and so they're fighting and they're going crazy. And then at one point, he ends up running Gurren, which is Kamina's thing, through with a giant sword, and Kamina gets really, really injured. And this is like right before he and Yoko almost had like a romantic moment the night before, and so like and so he's trying to pull through to help them out. And I think this is when he tells Simone, "Believe in the you that believes in you," right? And so they wind up finally getting the big battleship guy, which is called Daigunzen. And so Lagann bonds with it, and then they capture it, and it becomes Team Daiguren. And then Kamina dies. And this is episode 6 too. So like he's the most charismatic. He's the leader of everything. And he died. And the thing that I love about it is like this goofy show suddenly slows down, and it actually gets
dark.
It's dark, but it's like it's good dark, because like
Does he come back at all? Like I
No,
know
no,
in
no.
like
Like
a lot of shows and stuff, somebody comes
no,
back.
he's dead. Like when someone dies in this
He's
show,
fucking dead,
he's fucking
bro.
dead. He dies hard, right? Well, and
Ooh,
what I love about it
yikes.
is suddenly, because like Simon was like Kamina was the source of all of Simon's like courage and all of his gusto and his drive. And now that he's gone,
Now,
Simon he falls into this kind of depression. He's in this mourning.
yeah,
Like he starts
fair.
obsessively making statues of Kamina in his room. And it's really sad. Well, then eventually, what ends up turning him around is he's running away in Lagann, and he notices the Beastmen throwing this box into this canyon, and he's like, "That's kind of weird." So he runs down and he realizes
Strange.
there's a lot of other boxes. Well, what happens is, what should pop out of the box but a little girl about his age, conveniently enough. Turns out she's one of Lord Genome's daughters. And all of the boxes in the canyon have been Lord Genome's daughters. And no one really knows why he's been doing that. And then you eventually find out, but I'm not going to tell you what the reason is, because that's part 2. You got to watch part 2. And her name is Nia, and at first you don't really trust her on Daiguren because she's the daughter of their arch nemesis, right? Like
That's
that
fair.
that it's pretty fair. And so she ends up kind of like encouraging Simon. Like I think it's because like she's really nice to him and she sort of like helps him. She's a neutral third party, and so she
Yeah.
sees how they all act and how they all work as like a unit, and she sort of helps them. She helps like bring Simon's fire back, and then eventually Rossio ends up piloting the second like the body of Gurren Lagann, and they wind up being a little bit okay, and they wind up fighting off all the rest of them, and so they do wind up fighting Lord Genome. But the problem is when they end up fighting Lord Genome, he ends up revealing to them that he had very good reason to lock everyone underground and create the Beastmen, but they won't find out, right? And I think he says something about don't let the population reach 1 million, and then they end up killing him, and then he dies. And I won't say much more about that because it's a fantastic show, and like the less you know about it going in, the better, honestly. But it's a freaking trip and a half, man. It is balls to the wall insanity.
Makes a lot of sense.
It is, yeah. The thing that I like about it too is that like you can tell that like it was done as a tribute to super robot anime. So there's 2 different kinds of robot anime essentially, right? There's anime kind of like Gundam, right? Gundam is meant to be more of like a military type army show, right? So like there were like number designations for each model of mobile suit. And when you see the guys in the cockpit, there's buttons and stuff, and sometimes like the arm of the robot falls off, so they have to like reroute coolant and stuff, and they have to consider all these technical shortcomings. Well, then there are super robot shows where the robots just do whatever the hell you want, right? And those are the old robot shows that came before Gundam. So like actually Transformers is a really good example of a super robot show because the robots have like personalities and stuff, and sometimes they'll transform in just frankly ludicrous ways, like how Megatron in G1 would turn from a robot the size of a small skyscraper to a gun that could fit in someone's hand. And they call it mass shifting, and I call it bullshit. So
yeah, defying
physics. Defying physics. Yeah.
Defying
so many
anything and everything.
Anything and everything. Yeah, that's the thing. So if I had to sum up Gurren Lagann, I would say it's about the importance of believing. So like one thing I like about it is that like all you need to win in any given fight is to believe in yourself. And the only problem with that is that believing in yourself is really, really hard. And so it's all about these people. It's all about people learning to find the faith that they can do what they need to do, and the faith in others that they can help them, right? So it's all about these people kind of leaning on each other. And it actually is a really sweet show. And it has a really kind of like heartfelt ending.
Finally, a happy plot line that you're telling me about.
It's actually really, really well. Okay, so the ending of Hyperion is actually very happy, I will say.
Yeah, well, the ending isn't the entire book, is it?
No, it's not. That's a very fair point, Emma. God.
Everything I'm bringing up is kind and lovely.
and I'm just like, death,
Duh.
evil. So yeah, no, it's great, and the show they put out after this, Kill la Kill, is just complete insanity. It like all the reservation that Gurren Lagann had, what little it had, is gone in Kill la Kill. It's an amazing show. Well, anyway, that's about what I have to say so far about Gurren Lagann. You need to tell me a little bit more about this Shira thing, because
Okay.
I'm
So
psyched about it.
from what I understand
Okay.
about its origin
Yes.
is that, and I may be wrong,
Okay.
but I also don't really care,
That's
is
fair.
that it's like He-Man, but
Yes.
She-Ra.
Yeah, it's He-Man for
so
girls.
like it's like He-Man, and She-Ra is his long-lost twin sister, maybe.
Wait, what?
Maybe. That's
I
a
think
theory
I
I
remember
saw that
hearing
was
about that.
so funny. It was like there's this picture of this guy named, like it's like this cute little comic somebody made where it's like this blonde hair, blue-eyed guy being like, hi, like talking to She-Ra, hi, or Adora, hi, my name's Adam. I'm really sad because I lost my sister. She disappeared into a portal when she was just a baby, and she was my twin. And, I grew up without her. I was really sad. And she was like, God, that's really sad. I was abandoned in a portal when I was a baby.
Oh my God.
So I don't know anything about my family. And they were both like, well, good luck with your family situation. And it was like, them not realizing. It was like so perfectly in character for both of them.
I feel like, because one of the episodes of The Toys That Made Us was about He-Man, and how apparently a lot of like boys specifically ducked out of He-Man when She-Ra was introduced because they didn't want to have to share their He-Man toys with their little sisters.
Is really stupid.
But
not just that, but they were like women representation in
Ew.
fighting. Gross.
Ew.
And everybody, all the like the gross guy boy gamer people, when this new reboot
You just said the same word 3 times, dude.
They were all like, you're not gonna make She-Ra wear her like signature skirt. It's not She-Ra. Well, they gave her a skirt, but they gave her longer shorts underneath them.
Yeah, that's
so it's
fair.
more like a peplum than a
practical.
miniskirt.
Well,
and her fucking thighs are huge.
I believe
her thighs
it.
are enormous.
Dude,
and so are her calves.
That girl's thick.
She grows into an 8-foot tall warrior.
That's fair.
And it's crazy. But anyway, so the plot of the show is...
Yes. Oh, well, actually, I want to put a pin in this. I want to come back to the boys' reaction to the show after you're done describing the plot.
And I would like to talk about the concept of over-sexualized women in anime also.
Which is a fair criticism. They're doing it irreverently, but it is a serious problem in all of anime.
I'm just going to say it right now.
Do it.
It's not just that there's like a lot of pedophilia in those industries.
Explicitly.
It's that when Japan lost World War II and America was like, hey Japan, I'm gonna fucking beat your ass for being fascist. Screw you.
Yeah, it was a little.
All the internment camps and the 2 fucking nuclear bombs, and it was really fucking bad. They were like, we're gonna control you. We're going to control your media. We're going to control, you don't get porn. Fuck it, you don't get porn. So they literally were not allowed to make or have their own porn. So you know what they did? They made anime full of fucking titties and short skirts.
Yes.
Which makes sense. But is also... Yikes. Anywho.
It's a bit of a yikes, yeah. Well, okay, so here's the thing. I also need to add context to the whole anime, specifically the pedo stuff. Because there is an upsetting, like, annoying, gross amount of it. I mean, any amount of it is gross.
It is awful.
Right? But the sheer amount. Okay, here's the thing. They didn't actually have anti-child porn laws until, like, 2013.
It's not ideal.
Like, I ran it by my anime friend, Matt. You know Matt Silverman? He watches a lot of anime. I think he encouraged me to watch both JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is I love that show, and also Gurren Lagann, and love it. But yeah, there's a lot of nudity of the underage variety in it. And here's the thing: all you gotta do is be like, yeah, they're 18. That's all you gotta say, and it's fine, right?
Like legally.
Like, I mean, yeah, legally. That's what they're
Morally,
freaking
it's
do.
not really.
I mean, morally, it's not, because it's like, what's going?
Legally, it is.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, the thing about Kill la Kill is even worse than Gurren Lagann, because Gurren Lagann, like the ladies tend to have big boobs, and Yoko doesn't wear like that much. In fact, one of the jokes is they go to a beach, and all the guys are excited to see what she's gonna wear, and her bikini actually covers more of her than her regular outfit, and I'm like, but like she has like.
That's a good joke.
I'm like that actually is hilarious. In Kill la Kill, their superpowers come from their outfits. Like their outfits get like tighter and like and more like cleavagey, and that's what gives them those superpowers because their outfits are, spoiler alert, aliens. Yes, they're aliens. Anyway, and
Wow.
and the anti-alien resistant group are called the Nudist Beach.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. Okay. Well,
Okay, let me talk.
I'll let you talk,
turn.
and then we'll come back
It's
to
my
my
turn.
thing about your
Yes.
thing. Okay.
Yes.
here we go.
Okay. So, the plot is, it's very similar to Avatar in this regard. There's this girl named Dora.
Okay.
And it's also very similar to the story of Moses in like the Prince of Egypt and also in, history. I don't know if you've seen the Prince of Egypt, but that's like.
I don't know if I've seen the whole thing, but I've seen enough to know that it's an amazing movie. It's a short movie too, right? It's like 60 hours long, or 60 minutes long.
60 hours.
60 hours long. It's a short 60-hour long movie. It'll take you like a week to watch. It's awesome.
Oh God. Anyway, so the point is, so She-Ra is like basically the concept of the Avatar. When Adora accidentally picks up this sword, she's infused with this knowledge that she needs to hold it up and say, "For the honor of Grayskull!" And then she turns into She-Ra. Yeah. And then when she lets go of her sword, or when she's done fighting, or when her confidence gets shaken, bam, she's back to regular Adora. So it's kind of like Aang and the Avatar state in that regard. Cool. It's like you have the superhuman abilities, you can lift up a truck without even trying.
But
like at least She-Ra is like cognizant, it's you don't have to worry about getting control over it as much as you do with the Avatar state.
Yeah.
It's cool. But so she grows up in the quote fright zone.
The fright zone, okay.
Scary. She's part of the Horde, which is why, you mentioned that in Hyperion, and I was like, out it.
No, we're not World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is the Horde.
My bad, the Horde.
Too much nerd shit.
There's this, so the Horde is ruled by Lord Hordak, who's...
Oh, Hordak, yeah.
So good. What a great evil character.
Yeah, Hordak, okay, I actually know who that is. He was in the original, like, He-Man cartoons.
That would make sense.
He was to Skeletor what the Riddler was to the Joker, where, like, the person who was in charge depended on what day of the week it was. So... Yeah, but that's cool. Okay, awesome.
So Lord Hordak, but it's a little different, and I will elaborate. So Lord Hordak,
I can appreciate
is in charge of the Horde, and there's various levels and stuff. It's very, very much fascism.
Wait, okay, so it's called the Horde, and his name is Hordak. That's awesome. Okay, anyway.
Okay, so Dora is the whole point of the Horde is that they fight against the princesses. And they fight to protect Etheria from the princesses, and they fight to make things more orderly and organized.
That's literally fascism. Oh my God.
Okay. So Adora grows up in the Horde. She's a baby. She has no family. She was abandoned, just like Moses, and was taken in by the Horde and grew up with her best friend Catra, who's like a sort of cat human. They have some people who are like, Scorpia is a scorpion human. Catra is a cat human. Rogelio is this lizard guy.
Oh, there's beastmen in this show too. That's awesome.
Beast people. It's quite lovely. So
Catra, there's furries everywhere. Love it.
Catra is actually voiced by AJ from Ally and AJ.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
She does a great job. Catra is one of the best characters. She's so funny.
Anyways, and ironically, she also believes in magic. So there you go.
She really do be believing in magic. But Catra fucking hates magic because in the Horde, they grow up hating and fearing princesses. thinking that princesses are the bad guys, that they have no control over their powers. They're fed all this propaganda from day one. Adora leaves because, she manages to take this skiff with Ketra, and they go to the Whispering Woods. It's all threatening and stuff, and Adora, finds this sword, and she's like, I need to go back, and so she goes back later by herself, and she meets these two characters, Glimmer and Bo, who become her new best friends. They're kind of like the Sokka and Katara in terms of, like, the group numbers, but Bo, they're not, like, at all similar, they're not like the sarcasm and meat guy and the hope girl.
The sarcasm and meat guy.
That's what he calls himself. Anyway, so Bo is fair. Bo he's always wearing a crop top. He does not wear full shirts. That is like his thing. He's got hearts all over his outfit. He's got like purple hair. He's black and he's got like purple hair. You come to find out later he's got two dads, one of whom is black and one of whom is Hispanic, I think. Glimmer is half Asian, half angelic being. Her mom is an angel, who's the queen of Bright Moon, which is where they live. Etheria is the planet. So Adora runs into these two people, and Glimmer has teleportation abilities. And so she's like, it's great. And Adora's like, oh my god, a princess, I need to fight her. And she's like, oh my god, a horde soldier, we need to fight her. And it's, so like, there's just a lot going on. But anyway, so Adora becoming their prisoner, because she's outnumbered, she finds out what the Horde is actually doing. The Horde is actually terrorizing Etheria. They're not protecting or saving Etheria at all. They're not doing anything except hurting everybody, and that's not cool. That's not what they were raised on.
No.
And so Adora's like, I can't be a part of the Horde anymore. I want to join the rebellion against the Horde, which is what the Horde had been fighting, the rebellion. So she goes, and Ketra, like, invades this area called Feymore, which is where Adora got to find out what, parties were. And she was like, this is what fun is? This is what happiness is? I've never had this in the Horde. This is what food is? Anyway, so she's like, Ketra, I can't stay with the Horde. You should come with me. And Ketra was like, you left me. Are you really choosing these people that you've known for a day over somebody you've known your entire life? She takes it more of a personal attack. Because you know what? They grew up together and they're in love with each other. They're not like siblings. They're just in love with each other. But they don't even know that. They literally sleep in the same bed every night. Ketra sleeps at Adora's feet, and they both don't realize that they're in love with each other. It's like cute. Everybody's like, oh.
So everyone else in the show is like, you guys are clear.
Exactly. So as the show goes on,
do they ever get together? Like
the last episode, they kiss. It's great. So
Kurosami.
At the very end, some wonderful stuff. All of the gay couples kiss, and all of the straight couples are implied.
Yes, I think you mentioned that in the WoW episode.
It's absolutely wonderful.
I respect immensely.
So the general plot of the show is that there's a lot of fighting, but it's against the Horde, and it's by princesses uniting through the Princess Alliance, and they're trying to find, all this technology. There's an autistic princess, Entrapta, who is like the tech master, and she's wonderful. She's hilarious. She wears actual clothes. Like, she has this tiny little boob window that everybody, like, it's like Bo has the stomach window. Ketra has the boob window, and Entrapta has the boob window. It's just great stuff.
That's awesome.
Perfuma is the princess who controls plants. Scorpia has, her tail. That's just like scorpion. There's Mermista, who's like the princess of the seas, and she can turn into a mermaid, but she's like super deadpan, vocal fry, like.
She's April.
I'm Sierra, and then Adora's like, no, I'm
having
She-Ra.
Such a terrible
you can't
time.
Be
this
Sierra.
is awesome.
She's like, whatever, and Sierra busts through with her like water powers and stuff. And then there's Frosta, who's this 13-year-old who's super hyper, just blows things up with ice all the time, and it's wonderful. And Entrapta at some point starts working for the Horde, because the Horde gives her all these supplies, and she's like, I just want to do science. I don't, she's clearly not paying attention to a lot of the stuff going on, because she's so focused on science.
So she's Werner von Braun, essentially, working for...
I guess?
So
But like,
Werner von Braun was the guy that we stole from Nazi Germany to start our space program, and he
okay.
was happy working for Nazi Germany because they would fund his rocket research. In fact, he famously said that the V2 missile worked perfectly, except that it landed on the wrong planet. So, yeah. So she's Werner von Braun. That's cool. I can
Okay.
appreciate that as a space
Yeah.
nerd.
She really is. She's a very kind person, and
Yeah.
as the series progresses with all the characters, she kind of breaks into Hordak's lab at one point because she like crawls around in the air ducts and stuff, and she has these two really long purple ponytails, and the hair
As
moves
you
around
do.
and touches stuff for her.
Oh, dude.
So she touches things, but her hair does like everything for her, which is cool because there's a lack of touching, which is awesome. We love that representation.
Yay.
She also is obsessed with tiny food. She only eats food if it's tiny. She's like, regular sized food is fine, but I just love tiny food because it's so cute. It's wonderful.
Which again, that's a mood, man. I can see that.
Yeah. So like, as the series progresses, she and Hordak actually become better friends because she breaks into his inner sanctum, and she's like, "Ooh, he calls it a sanctum," and like Hordak's like, "Get out! There will be dire consequences for this breach of conduct." And she's like, "You were using uninsulated wires. I fixed them for you. Bye!" And he's like, "What?" And he tries it, and it works. And he's like, "She was right." And she's like, "Of course I was right." And like, she's like, she makes this like robot that like helps her with everything, and he's like, "Entrapta shall remain my lab partner." And she's like, "Did you hear that, Emily? I've never had a lab partner before." Her eyes are like full of like sparkles.
That's amazing.
It's wonderful. It's so great. And as the series progresses, like she starts to talk to Hordak, and she notices that his exoskeleton is really weak, and he's actually really weak. And she's like, "Hey, like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?" Like, she actually cares about him because she's his lab partner and she cares about him. And she's like, "That's not, you fell over." And he was unconscious. And then when he woke up, she gave him a tray of tiny soups and was like, "I don't really like soup, and I'm probably not a good cook, but here's some soup. It always makes me feel better when things are tiny. I know it's the same as regular size soup, but it's just so cute." And he's like, "I don't want to eat it." Like he's doing like the,
oh God, this is adorable.
Her hair is holding up like 12 spoons, and he's like, "No, no, no, no." And she's like,
So it's like the Ryan Gosling cereal line?
I guess. I mean, it's just, I guess I don't know that one. I'm sorry.
Wait, you don't know that one? Oh my God.
I'll look it up.
You should, really should.
But like, I'm spending so much time on their relationship because I care so much about their relationship. As somebody who watched the show,
it sounds great.
I feel like I'm only paying attention to them. But like, so she finds out, and she talks to him, and she's like, "What's going on?" basically. And he's like, "We're making this portal so that I can open Etheria back up to the actual galaxy." Because turns out the previous She-Ra before Adora, her name is Mara. And Mara, this program that's helping to train Adora into being She-Ra, this program says that Mara became unbalanced and that the power of She-Ra became too much for her, and she abandoned she deserted the planet sequence series and its moons in the galaxy of Despondos, which is basically just a pocket. There's no stars, there's no nothing.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say like the people in the galaxy are called the Despondos, and I was gonna be like, no. That's awesome.
That would be awesome. But so there's no stars in the sky, there's no nothing. And so they're in this little pocket because Mara took them away. And the reason for that is because Hordak is actually a clone of Hordak Prime.
Oh, I feel like I've heard of this before.
Which is probably from He-Man. And so Horde Prime
is this really cool, yeah.
Epic, scary dude boy who clones himself. He's lived for thousands of years because he constantly collects all this knowledge and all this data and puts it into the minds and brains of all of the bodies of his people, of his clones. And then he sends those clones out to destroy anything and everything.
Yeah.
And to conquer stuff. But he does it in a way that actually is basically Catholicism. He's like, Lord Prime
Okay.
sees everything. Horde
That's
Prime sees
cool.
everything. Lord Prime, will absolve you of your sins. Imperfection is sin, and I will make everyone perfect and whatnot. So like, it's
Okay.
a lot like Catholicism. There's even a baptismal pool at some point.
Oh, cool. Well,
It's
and
really
and
freaky.
also when you think about it, Catholicism is basically the worship of a space deity. So,
Exactly.
makes
And
sense.
he literally like conquers planets and stuff. Anyways, so Hor
Jesus the Planet Conqueror, coming to theaters this fall.
so Hordak, like from Etheria, is like talking to Entrapta. He's like, I was, trapped in this galaxy of Despondos, this realm of Despondos, and I need to get back to Horde Prime, and I need to prove to him
Yeah.
that, my clone strain was not an abomination. That I that I'm not genetically impure the way he said that I was, and I need to prove my worth to him, and I need
That's
to
pretty
regain
cool.
my love in his eyes. And Entrapta's like, imperfections are what makes people beautiful. She's like, Emily is not the perfect robot. Her leg sticks, and she, twitches sometimes, and she lags, but she is so cuddly, and that's what makes her Emily is her imperfections.
Aw, that's cute.
And not just that, but she builds him a better exoskeleton. Like, she literally builds him up in a time when he needs it most.
Oh, that's adorable.
And he's like
oh
really
my god.
He's like really tall, and he's got this dark blue hair and these red eyes, and he's this really foreboding person. His accent colors are like navy blues and stuff, and he's like made of metal. And she's like,
I'm familiar with him.
Light purple, and she's always wearing this mask that can cut like a welding mask, and she's wearing like basically like worker overalls and gloves, and like worker overalls that go so long that they cover her ankles. Like, she's like schlubby.
Wait,
and he's like foreboding.
What's her name? I want to Google her really quick.
Her name is Entrapta. Entrapta.
Entrapta. She was like the third option. She's
oh my god,
she's adorable.
And Hordak stuff. It'll probably show you, like, if you look up Entraptak, that's their ship name.
Entrapta.
It is important. It's some good shit.
Entraptak.
And some people are like, oh, it's like, you guys are disgusting. She's a child. And it's like, no, she's not a child. She's like 30. Why are you reading into that wrong?
Dude, can we talk about how friggin' awesome Hordak looks? Like, right? they were confined by like the weird, like, about to take a poop stance that all of the He-Man action figures had permanently back in the 80s. Like, he looks like friggin' cool.
Also, technically, he's wearing a backless dress. Like, that's his costume.
Wait a second.
Backless
what?
dress. That's why everybody who draws him in like literally a backless dress.
Let me see. Yeah, you're not kidding. He's got a little tabard on.
A backless dress with literally slits up both thighs.
You basically do. Yeah, I love it. He's got his sexy tabard. He's got his friggin' cloak and his cape. Oh, this guy can accessorize.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, his eyeshadow is like, his
eyeliner
on point. His eyeliner is friggin' sharp.
I have something to say.
Yes, you do. We have many things to say.
So now that Entraptak has been discussed, back to the actual plotline, Adora. So
sure.
Adora is training with this program, Light Hope, to become the best She-Ra that she can be. That program was kind of placed there. It's kind of like the Roku of Avatar. Light Hope is training Adora, giving her techniques and stuff to be the best She-Ra. But you come to find out that, she's constantly saying things like, you must let go of your earthly attachments. Just like things in Avatar, But then you find out...
It's like the Jedi thing, yeah.
Yeah, but then you find out, oh, that's a manipulation tactic. And people shouldn't be, made into deities that are in control of the entire cosmos. And that's actually why Mara stranded that planet into Despondos, was so that there could be no other She-Ra. And no other She-Ra could put her life on the line.
Oh, that's neat.
And destroy her life for the sake of the planet. Because you come to find out that Light Hope, the whole race of like where She-Ra's come from, they're called the First Ones. They had incredible technology using data crystals and stuff. Data crystals that Entrapta is super into finding. That's her whole thing, is melding science and magic using those First One crystals, because they meld science and magic very well. So the First Ones, who have all this First Ones tech, they built the planet, basically. They took the planet and they just infused it in First One's tech. There's all these rune stones that the princesses draw their power from.
Yeah.
And the First Ones made the core of Etheria like tap into all of those rune stones. And when every single princess is in communication and contact with her rune stone, when She-Ra contacts the heart of Etheria, she will blow up the fucking planet. And that's what Light Hope has been trying to get her to do. To sacrifice herself to destroy the planet and the evil in the universe, right? And Mara was like, no, I'm not gonna fucking let you do that. I'm not gonna allow myself to be a key to your destruction.
That is dumb.
If I die preventing the next person from doing this, I will fucking do that. I will not let this continue. And
that's cool. I like that.
It's a really good show, and there's lots of heartfelt moments. Like Adora and Ketra are fighting through like the whole show, because Ketra's like, you left me behind, and I still can't believe that you did that. And at some point they become friends again, and then they start dating, and it's really cute. But that's like, like the last season, Ketra kind of becomes good, because she gets face to face with Horde Prime, and he's like, I will kill you. I do not give a shit about you. If I can use you, I'll use you, but you have nothing to gain from being in my presence if I have nothing to gain. So Adora comes back for her, and Ketra's like, we both know I don't matter. And Adora's like, you matter to me. And it's like, whoa.
Oh, that's cute.
It's like all of the anger evaporates. And Ketra is back on her path of being good.
Everyone's just happy, and it's cute. I love that shit.
There's lots of good stuff. There's, but I mean, they're still fighting to, it's a lot of like Avatar stuff, I feel, like mixed in with like, what do you want? Like in Avatar, all he was saying was, I don't want to do that. I don't want to kill the Fire Lord. That's not something I can do.
I want to do something
else.
And
everybody was telling him, there is no other option. You have to kill him. And then the Lion Turtle was like, maybe there's another way.
Have you ever heard of a Deus Ex Machina?
But basically what happened was he was told, you need to let go of your earthly attachments. That's a good thing. You need to let go of them.
Yeah.
And by the end of the series, you kind of realize he did need to let go of his earthly attachments. He needed to accept that his friends were strong enough to protect themselves. And that doesn't happen in She-Ra. It's quite the opposite. Her attachments with her friends are what brought her to become She-Ra. And they're what brought her to protect the planet. Love needs to be present on a magical planet. That's what needs to happen.
Well, because it makes sense, because if you have this incredible power, you should have attachments to people preventing you from abusing it. I think
exactly.
I feel like if this kind of reminds me of the Star Wars prequels too, because like, Anakin is a scared kid who was brought to an alien world at a young age and is interviewed by like literally the most powerful beings in the universe. And they're like, you're sad about your mom? You need to stop that, asshole.
Are you kidding me?
And then they get weirded out when he winds up like committing genocide, and then committing more genocide, and then committing
even more genocide.
Yeah. If it had been written a little bit better, that would have been a bad thing. But they never stopped saying, the Jedi are the good guys because look at the color of their lightsabers. They're blue. Okay? Well, and purple, but blue. See, look.
Purple is just, it's like gay.
Purple is for Samuel Jackson because he wanted it to be purple. Which, if Samuel Jackson asks you to change the color of his lightsaber, you change the color of his lightsaber. That's what you do.
What he deserves.
It's what he deserves. I think
it's reparations.
I like all of the twists that you established
They're
in it.
very, very good. I do have to say there's a lot of love and care. There's incredible character development, people going from one side to the other, very open and overt gay relationships that are healthy. There's like
Yeah,
no heterosexual relationships. They're all implied.
that's
Like
cool. Because, like I
like
said, we've had enough.
yeah,
We
seriously, like Seahawk and Mermista. Seahawk is this guy, he's a pirate, and he's so funny. He's constantly like,
he's a pirate.
time to sing a sea shanty.
Ah,
And Mermista's like, no. And she like washes water all over him, right? And at
that's
the
cute.
end,
That's really
like,
cute.
he tells her that he loves her. And you're like, ah.
That's great.
He says, like, you know, the reason I'm telling you this is because I love you. And there's this crazy thing that happens, like, the characters under, like, you know, Horde Prime finds them because Hordak tried to open the portal and his message got out. The portal closed, but the message got out. And there's a whole twist with Ketra blames that some princess invasion on Entrapta. And Hordak's like, Entrapta betrayed me? And he, like, flies into this rage. And it's kind of like a breakup. Like, he's like, do not say that name to me. So it's hilarious.
That's
so,
great.
like, you know, like, there's so much that happens. There's only 5 seasons, and it's really lovely and
I
good.
can imagine. See, here's the thing. This kind of reminds me of I would have talked about Voltron, but the problem was the first 2 seasons are perfect. The end of season 2 is amazing, and then it just sort of putters around for 3 seasons, and then I guess it ends. And like all the cool stuff happens at first,
She-Ra
and then it
really,
just goes
like, it's pretty up there, but I feel like the last season really hit the high note.
Oh,
like,
good, yeah.
Like it goes, it's crazy.
That's actually pretty rare
really,
for
really
shows
great.
to do. I think that The Good Place does that well. By the way, remember I said I was 3 seasons away from the end? Turns out season 3 is not the end, season 4 is the end, and season 4 is on NBC, and we don't have cable, so we can't watch it.
Bro, that's fine. I'm not able to watch it either. I only have Netflix. I'm not trying to spoil anything for you.
I'm like...
But might I reiterate that Chidi's best friend in the show of The Good Place voices Hordak. And because he's a clone, all of the Hordaks.
Oh, that's
my God!
amazing.
I forgot to mention.
Okay.
There's a wrong Hordak. There's
Lord
Hordak. There's Lord Hordak from the Fright Zone. And then there's Horde Prime, the Mega Horde.
Mega Hordak. Hordy Hordo.
Okay, so Bo and Entrapta invade. They sneak into Horde Prime's intergalactic spaceship. And they're trying to find, like, since Horde Prime has established connection with Etheria, he took Hordak, like Lord Hordak, and like he's like, you made a name for yourself, you separated yourself from me, and now you have the audacity to try to prove your worth to me? I am your worth. Into the memory pool with you. And he gets rebaptized and forgets everything about Etheria. And Entrapta is trying to find him and remind him like that she exists and that she still loves him and that she never betrayed him. So she brought the little data crystal from the first one's tech that she built into his armor to make him strong. And she's like, she finds this Hordak somewhere, you know, a Horde clone, and she's like, Hordak, do you remember me? I brought this for you in case you remember me. And he like looks at her and he's like, ah! And she's like, wrong Hordak.
Oh, I love that.
He breaks out of this little thing, and then he's like, I've been disconnected from the hive mind. How will Horde Prime see that I love him? How will he know that I am doing good things? Oh, God. And so, like, he sticks with Entrapta, and Entrapta, like, helps him through his existential crisis, I guess.
Which is fair.
He becomes, like, her new lab assistant, but, like, not at all like the previous Hordak. He's so funny. He's, like, he just sits there monotoned and monopan and stuff, and she's like, she tries to explain to him what winking is at one point, and he's like, but facial expressions are reserved solely for Lord Prime. She's like, but you just said you're not like a subject of Lord Prime anymore. And he's like, and he like totally goes apeshit. He's forever winking at people and smiling the biggest smile he can.
Does he
Talking
give
to
him
people,
any
he's
finger
like,
guns? Does he go like,
I mean,
hey?
he basically does. Like,
Okay.
he's got the vibes. Not just that, but he's constantly being like,
Does he?
um,
So he gives you
he's like,
spiritual
I
finger
must
guns. He doesn't give you
educate.
actual finger guns.
He's like, I must educate our brothers on the fallacy of Lord Prime. It's so.
That's
Just,
wonderful.
like, I must free my brothers from the chains of mass oppression. It's great.
That's amazing. Oh my god.
There's a lot of decolonial themes in She-Ra.
Well, so
I
this
very much encourage everybody to watch
well,
it.
so this kind of comes
Very
back
good.
into like just the whimsy of like what they're doing with Hordak. Kind of brings you back to like the initial
All the
people.
Hordaks.
Well, people getting mad at the design of this She-Ra show, right? At first, because I'm in a comic book group, and though it is an incredibly progressive comic book group, like very much like so they
more progressive probably than other comic book groups.
well, no, like explicitly, like one of the admins, Faria, who's awesome. We'll have her on the show one day if we can. If you ever finish Miss Marvel, we'll have her on the show.
What, you mean like all of them or the first one?
Well, all of them, because the whole series. Well, it's 10
Yeah,
volumes. Yes, you can.
I can't read all of them. They all cost like $5.
Fair.
I'm not gonna buy all of them.
Dude, you
I
could just
can't do that.
okay. There are apps you can use to read them on libraries and
Some
stuff.
apps.
Something like that, yeah.
We'll share the apps too. We'll
There's
find them and
well,
disseminate.
she is very like she's posted stuff about like how to decolonialize your bookshelf.
Decolonize the books.
She's very much they post for like Pride stuff and for like Jewish stuff and Black Lives Matter stuff.
Speaking of which, happy Juneteenth.
I almost forgot. Happy Juneteenth. I'm not wearing black.
Abolish
My bookshelf
prisons.
is very dark, and the spine
Or
for my
navy.
Thor book is also dark. So same thing. And I'm also covering up the H.P. Lovecraft book. So there you go.
Because fuck him.
Yeah.
Piece of garbage.
Actually, don't. I don't think he ever actually got fucked. I think that was one of the things he took. Which
yeah, he was like the OG incel. We'll talk about him another day.
We
you
will.
were saying.
So here's the thing.
Decolonizing your bookshelf.
It's this one phrase people started talking about with regards to her original design that I would like us as a species to ban everywhere, and it is role models for young girls, because we never talk about role models for young boys because no one gives a shit. You put out a thing for boys, it's like that's a thing, right? Who gives a shit? And people are like, oh, but the old one, she could be a role model for girls. And I'm like, you know what? I just realized.
The new one is a much better role model.
Well, it is, but also I realized, like, who cares if it is? Everybody seems to be hung up on role models for young girls, when what that really means is make the blandest, least full character.
Yeah,
ever.
role model means how can we model our young girls after
Basically.
this?
And it's like, dude, who
What
cares?
do you want our young girls to look like? You're just looking for another way to control young women. You're not actually
That's
looking for
I also
them to
hate
feel
I also hate the
represented.
phrase impressionable young girls, because dude, impressionable young boys do way worse shit than
There's
impressionable young
literally
girls.
no gender more impressionable than young men.
Okay, and you know why? Honestly, I think it's because all of the media is targeted at us. So when you grow up thinking that you're the center of the universe, it means that you get a lot of blind spots, and that's somewhat intentional. But yeah,
women are inherently impressionable, or like AFAB people are inherently impressionable because we are made to be constantly second guessing ourselves and double taking at stuff and thinking about things. So things have a deep impression upon us, but typically because things suck. And it's not because we are close to, like, oh, you're a deeply impressionable young woman. You need to be given like the right, the right thing, I don't even know what to call it.
Like the right behaviors or the right
thoughts.
Yeah,
you need to behave correctly. And I'm like,
yeah. See, this is something that I really like about this era of geekdom. I feel like this is the era where people are sort of starting to like not even like overwhelmingly, but they're really kind of starting to leave like male protagonists behind.
Mm-hmm.
Like just in the past few years, what you had Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, which is a wonderful, really girly, really fun.
I really love her.
It gets
She's
better.
so goofy. I mean, of course it does. I was only able to read the first issue.
There was this terrible event called Civil War II, which was meant to cash in both on the popularity of the original Marvel Civil War, and also the movie Civil War, because of course they have to do that. But the tie-in for Miss Marvel was her going through the Civil War, but also reflecting on her great grandparents, like traveling from India to Pakistan back when the country was split up by the British.
When the traveling happened.
Yeah, when the traveling happened.
The movement.
When that mass forced exodus happened.
Yeah.
And it's
not just the exodus, but the exodus of Pakistani people leaving India and Indian people leaving Pakistan, and them having to literally cross paths.
Yeah, like that whole thing happening, and like them sort of like, and like the parallels between those two things, and it was really, really nice.
That's an
really
interesting take, because seriously, I could not give less of a shit about Tony Stark and Captain America getting pissed off at each other or whatever, if that's whatever the fuck.
It's even dumber.
No,
dude,
I know.
No,
like,
the plotline in Civil War II is even dumber.
I could not give even less of a shit. But, like, when you bring in how something that's happening is actually affecting a person of a different lifestyle in a real way,
yeah,
that's good. That's the good stuff.
Yeah, the thing about a lot of event comics is they're often forced on people by editorial. I don't know if it's everywhere. I think it's more of a Marvel thing than a DC thing, because Marvel's where all the money is. But oftentimes it's a lot of the tie-ins are where like the really cool stuff happens. But like I was saying, like I think the thing that I'm starting to see more of is like a lot of female creators are getting a lot bolder and they're doing a lot more cool stuff.
Yeah, and you know why? Fuck it.
And also, what I like is a lot of
every day is worse. Might as well try to make it better.
Well, no, but a lot of male creators too. Like they're writing a lot of stuff about like girls and women and stuff. Like what Greg Rucka has this amazing post-apocalyptic story called Lazarus.
Mm-hmm.
where with the female protagonist. Jess and I just finished, my wife and I just finished reading this really, really good comic by Brian K. Vaughan called Paper Girls, about like
Brian K. Vaughan!
Brian K. Vaughan!
I really need to read Paper Girls. It's been on my list for a while.
It's great. The art is insanely good. But no, it's
amazing.
It's so good.
Just look at the cover and you're blown away.
Oh, dude, I think I read through the first trade in like about 30 or 40 minutes. I was like, oh my god, I need more of this.
Some comics really be that fast, and
they do.
That's honestly, I think we should talk about like comics at some point and just their structure. It's very important. But you were going to say something before about He-Man and She-Ra, like the thing that you had to say about my show, remember?
Oh, yeah. So He-Man is, I think he was the most popular action figure of all time, maybe after G.I. Joe, but like the most popular one. Well, I mean, here's the thing. You should really check out, if you are a fan of She-Ra at all, you owe it to yourself to watch the episode of The Toys That Made Us on Netflix about He-Man.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because, like, I mean, it's amazing because, like, the guy who created He-Man was really, like, he's adorable. Like, he just, like, threw a bunch of stuff together to make an action figure. He was like, I'm just going to call him, He-Man, because I want him to be, really tough and really manly. And I'm like, that's adorable. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And so they got to a point where like they started just making whatever random stupid character they could think of with whatever weirdo gimmick. And the problem they wound up running into was like there were too many tertiary we don't have He-Man or Skeletor or Man-at-Arms, but we have Buzz-Off. Do you want Buzz-Off? Do you want Fish Boy? I mean, there was no Fish Boy, but And so then eventually they were like, what if we did the same thing but with girls? And so they did She-Ra. And so instead of writing a green and orange tiger, she rides a Pegasus, which
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing cooler than a green and orange tiger was a flying green and orange tiger, but is a Pegasus, right? I mean,
The way that happens in the show is she's trying to make the She-Ra power happen to her again because she still doesn't really know how to do it. It's like the second
I love that
episode.
trope so hard.
And she's like, I don't really know how to do this. And she's like, for the honor of Grayskull! For the honor of Grayskull! For the honor of Grayskull! She's trying so hard. And she does it, and it shoots out a bolt of light, and it bounces off of everything and hits this horse that they rode back to Bright Moon. And the horse turns into a rainbow winged Pegasus, and he's like a unicorn Pegasus. And he's like, ah! And like flies away. And he's like, get these things off of me! Get these wings off of me! And he's like trampling a village. And then
Wait. Can the horse talk?
Eventually he can, yeah. He comes back and he's like, hi, my name is Swiftwind. And they're like, our horse can talk. And he's like, yes, I think we've established
Are you sure that's your name? You sure you don't want to just be Kevin?
He's like, I named myself Swiftwind after the swift winds of revolution. And they're like, our horse can talk. And he's like, I'll give you another minute.
That's
cute.
Like
a constant theme through the show is that when people find out that he can talk, they stay amazed for just a little too long. And he's like, I get it, I can talk, God. And he's like, I wish to free all of my horsey brethren and comrades from the chains of labor. Free apples and hay for all. No stables. And it's so funny.
One thing that I
Wait, I have to say one more thing. He was like, can we name some of our favorite stuff? Mine's hay, apples, toppling unjust hierarchies, hay. Wait, I said that already. And it's just great.
That's amazing. One thing that I think kind of runs as like a theme through both of these shows is like the idea that like, you know, the villains might not be like evil, they might just be wrong.
Yeah.
And so like
Hordak is specifically just very confused, and he was born into a cult.
So let me give you an example of, like I told you, like the two competing ideologies in the show are pragmatism and magical anime bullshit. By the way, I have a word, magical anime bullshit. That is what you call the plot contrivance that allows the superpowers to happen in any anime. So in My Hero Academia, it's quirks. In Full Metal Alchemist, it's alchemy. By the way, if you like well-written female characters that are diverse and are really interesting, check out FMA because it was actually written by a woman.
Also, She-Ra's really full of really, really like amazing and inclusive cast members. Like, there's not really any person who's just like sure. There's like maybe 2 people in the whole show, even including the extras, that are fully white. Like, there are people who are of different species. Like, I think maybe Kyle is the only white guy, and he's the one who gets everything blamed on him, like Jerry in Parks and Rec.
You know why?
Everybody's like, come on, Kyle!
You know why, Emma? Because fuck Kyle.
Come on, what the fuck is up, Kyle? What the fuck, dude? Step the fuck up, Kyle.
Oh my God, Kyle!
That's literally who his character is.
Even
Kyle is gay.
Totally Kyle.
Even Kyle's a really good guy, actually. Like, he's always messing up accidentally. He's literally
and then you got Viral, who starts off as this, like, you know, he's Zuko, right? Like he's angry and he's a sad blonde boy and he's kind of skinny and he's got one thing I love about him is that, like, he looks really angry because he just has like sharp teeth and they're like just like zigzag pumpkin like sharp teeth.
My main goal is to blow up and then act like I don't know nobody.
Well, no, like, but then you realize, you know, he's been like disrespected his whole life. And the thing is the thing about Beastmen is they're all sterile, right? So they can't have kids. And there's a part where like they have to go to this magic place where the bad guy traps them in their wildest dream, right? Like they're the thing they want the most.
That's horrible.
Hiron's, of course, is to be a kid again playing with Kamina. But Viral's is to have a wife and a child. And there's a part where like Simone realizes what's going on, and then he reverts back to his adult form, and then he finally gets to talk to the spirit of Kamina. And Kamina's like, "You did really good, big bro. I never thought that you'd wind up taller than me." And then like, so then he turns into like a star and he's flying through the sky. And Viro's having a good time and he's playing with his daughter. But then he looks up and he goes, "This isn't real, is it?" And then like, so he gives his wife a kiss goodbye, and then he goes back, and then they save the day.
I don't like that. That's
It's
sad.
but the thing about Gurren Lagann is that like it is, I didn't
I mean, there's some
realize this, but
sad stuff in She-Ra too.
oh,
I'm
of
not
course.
gonna
But the
say
thing I
that
didn't
there
realize is that
isn't.
like I didn't realize that like Gurren Lagann, for as insane as it is, because like I think I should at least spoil a little bit of the second part, not too much.
Do it.
Is so you find out the reason why this all happened, right? So thousands, if not millions of years ago, there was this war with this extra dimensional race called the anti-spirals, right? So the drill is a common it's a common motif throughout the show. Like Gurren Lagann is covered in drills. In fact, his main attack is to turn into a drill bit the size of a small city, and it's called the Giga Drill Break. And
I wish.
he just shoots into the bad guy and explodes them. And yes, I bet it's supposed to be phallic, but whatever. Well, it's because he's powered by, Kamina calls it fighting spirit, but it's actually this thing called spiral energy, right? And spirals, what they do is they naturally like take over and they naturally spread out and they get more and more strong, right? Well, the anti-spirals don't like that. So thousands and thousands, however long ago, they actually won this huge galactic war against the anti-spirals, and they could find them back to Earth.
Mhm.
And they said that you can't let the population get above 1 million, otherwise we will destroy everything, right? So Lord Genome imprisons everybody in the underground cities, and he breeds the Beastmen, because the Beastmen aren't people, and he makes them sterile so they can't overpopulate, and they can't draw the ire of the anti-spirals. Well, the first thing that happens after the time skip, because they overthrow Lord Genome, and there's this city, Simone's the head of the government, they have all these officers and stuff taking care of stuff, whatever. Well, the first thing that happens is, well, then you find out why Nia and all of his daughters got thrown in the boxes and thrown in there. It's because they're anti-spirals. And so what happens is she winds up becoming an anti-spiral, and she projects herself up onto the moon and goes, "You will be destroyed if you do not because you violated the thing." And then these weird geometric shapes start showing up and shooting everybody. And all of
sucks.
all like the mass-produced Gurren Lagann, they can't do anything at all to fight them because it doesn't work. And so then they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?" And then they find out that somehow the anti-spirals replaced the moon with this big thing. Like it's not a moon, it's a space station. And so they have to find a way to evacuate everybody.
Moon.
It's no moon, it's a space station, dude. It's friggin' Star Wars. It's awesome. Oh, it's great. Oh, and then what ends up happening is, so the thing that Gurren Lagann does is he combines, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, eventually they realize there is a socket in the moon that is in the shape, it's in the shape of his Giga Drill. So he combines with the moon and he turns into a moon-sized robot. And it's called, I think it's called,
Fucking good for him.
Oh, dude, no, it's great. And then you realize, oh, that's not it. We have to go and fight the actual anti-spirals. And so then they go and then they fight the anti-spirals and they think they're going to win, but then they realize they weren't the first spiral race to get to the anti-spirals. And there's this amazing shot. So the spirals have these there. So if fighting spirit, if spiral energy can be summed up as believing in yourself, anti-spiral energy can be summed up as fear and doubt, right? So they have these big, scary ships that just have these blank, like marble faces on them, right?
Ugh.
And there's this part where where the big Gurren Lagann spaceship is there's this giant ocean in space for some reason, right? And it's the tears of the spirals who came before and lost. And there's all these different ships over there. And then you see, it's this amazing shot. You see the ship stuck in the ocean, and you see these three faces just staring down at it. It's one of the most amazing images I've ever seen. Well, naturally, they wind up breaking out of it, and that's when they finally transform into the big moon Gurren Lagann. And they're like, "No, we're going to win. We're going to beat everybody because manly fighting spirit, and we're doing it for our bros. Got to do it for your bro. Everyone is your bro. It's great, bro." It's awesome. So
I
yeah.
love that.
And then
Where is it available for the
Netflix. It's on
Yay!
Netflix actually. It's
Okay,
dubbed on
cool.
Netflix. It's great, and it's actually a
It's
really
dubbed.
good dub too. I recommend it.
Awesome.
And it also has one of my favorite like
Is it
anime.
subbed at all, or is it dubbed?
It's dubbed. I think it's dubbed and subbed.
Okay,
I've
cool.
heard that the sub is better, but I've only seen it dubbed, and I love the dub a
I
lot.
personally am terrified of dubs and prefer subs because I don't like hearing different voices on top of different mouths.
Well,
I just don't.
I will say
it.
it actually kind of makes sense for Attack on Titan of all things, because one of the things that happened canonically in that show was the government in ancient times was a bit fashy, so there aren't a lot of Asian people or non-white people left anymore. So it kind of makes sense that these people with all these European names would be speaking like a European language, right? And also, the noises that the Titans make are a lot spoopier in the dub as opposed to the sub. So yes, I had a lot of fun discussing these lovely shows.
Yay!
I'm gonna have to check out She-Ra because
Please
it sounds.
do. The first
like
season
butterflies
is
and rainbows.
It is very butterflies and rainbows. There's like, it's very exposition-y at the beginning,
Yes.
but it's still very interesting because the jokes are very funny because they're actually written by funny people. Like
That's good. You want
like
that.
when it's like it doesn't seem like anime, and then they do the woo, like the eyes, and it's just like, yay. It's so cute.
Yay!
I watched all of it in probably 4 days the other day because obviously I have nothing to do. But like I was like, I need to watch all of this right now. Like I just didn't want to stop watching it.
That's fair. I can appreciate that a lot.
It's really nice.
No, I haven't
the
had that in
legal
a
word for that is
while.
binging.
I've had that in a while because I've actually.
I mean, the episodes are only 20 minutes long, so it doesn't really feel you're
totally.
doing that much.
Well, because I've been, ever since I got this little boy, I've actually been doing a lot more writing.
Yeah!
So I found a way to get through this part I was stuck on. What I did was I skipped it, I summed it up in a sentence, and then I moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, and then later you can come back and edit it.
Yeah, or I can move it. Yeah, that's it. I'm like, screw it. All right, cool. Well, anyway, people, thank you so much for joining us for this lovely episode of D and E. We will in the next episode we're going to be doing the first of our double explaining episodes where we both talk about a thing that we both love. And this thing that we talk about will be the movie Tremors, starring Kevin Bacon and also another person who isn't Kevin Bacon.
We don't know his name.
We don't know his name.
We do know Kevin Bacon.
We do know Kevin Bacon.
A movie that I have seen.
We all know Kevin Bacon.
Without lying, I think I may have seen that movie within the hundreds of times.
It is that
since I was in movie. 4th grade.
We're gonna have another person on the show with us.
Something's wrong with me.
Okay, I was home for that summer where you and Carrie watched Matilda every day for 2 weeks, and I can't watch that movie anymore.
That wasn't me and Carrie. That was just me. I was torturing both of you guys with that. And you know what? Matilda's still one of the best movies.
I can't watch it because I remember seeing it so many times, just going, I want to watch a different movie. Oh my god. Okay, so we're gonna have
bastard.
People who've seen my channel since I was in college will know that I'm gonna have my friend Matt, the facetious filmmaker, back on for that one. So yes, actually, I'm excited because apparently he's never seen it.
Wait, Matt Garnish or Matt Silverman?
No, Garnish. Garnish is gonna be on.
Garnish.
He hasn't seen it, and because he is a student of film and also a filmmaker, I'm excited to hear what he has to say about it.
Wait, will he have seen it by the time we make the episode?
I told him. So I say that I think we're gonna record it like next weekend because I'm off next weekend. So like I said, watch it by next weekend, and then we'll have a fun. I'm excited to hear his reaction to it.
Oh my god!
It'll be
I can
great.
probably recite like the whole movie by now.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it before next weekend too because I haven't seen it in quite a while.
But, I don't need to. I really don't need to.
You're that kind of. I'm the kind of person where I'm like, all these books, I read them once. That's all I need. I read it. I'm like, I love it. Beautiful. Good. On to the next
movies, you need to like rewatch.
Oh, totally. Well, yeah, movies, because it's an hour and a half investment at most, or 2 hour and a half investment at most. You know, books, it's like a week, right?
Gotcha.
That's it. All right. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in to our show. We will see you all the next.
People who are watching.
To the people who are watching. to this literal tens of people who will watch this in the length of this video. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good day. See you late. Have fun. And